and a warm welcome to each and every one of you present here. Our guests, speakers, dignitaries, faculty members, their families, ladies and gentlemen. Vidya dadati vinayam, vinay dadati patratam, patratva dhanmapnoti, dhanad dharmam tata sukham. Knowledge gives humility. From humility, one attains character. From character, one acquires wealth. From wealth, good deeds follow, and then happiness. Abiding by the words from Hitopdesh by Narayan Panditji and dedicated towards the goal of making India better, today, I, Navaldeep Srivastav,
And I, Aditi Jaiswal,
bring to you the ninth chapter of IIM Raipur's intellectual series, Gyan, Varsha, presenting the rock stars of India. The series brings together academia, industry, and purpose-driven speakers in an informal, academic, and social environment. It helps us to engage with visionaries, innovators, and leaders who have dedicated their lives for the betterment of our country, making them the true rock stars of India.
before we begin, I would request Professor Satyasiba to welcome our guest speaker for the day, Shri T. Koshy ji, with a bouquet.
Theme for the day is democratizing digital commerce. In a rapidly evolving digital landscape, the democratization of digital commerce means breaking down barriers and granting equal access to the tools and platforms that drive online commerce. It's about giving every entrepreneur, regardless of their background or resources, the opportunity to participate in the global marketplace. The democratization of digital commerce is not just a trend. It's a fundamental shift that empowers individuals and communities, giving a supporting hand to the slogan of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas by our Honorable Prime Minister. Today, we link this beautiful topic with the Open Network for Digital Commerce, ONDC, an innovative initiative introduced by the Government of India to revolutionize the digital commerce ecosystem in the country. It aims to promote fair competition, enhance user convenience, and foster innovation.
Today, we are honored to have a distinguished guest with us, a true champion of change and progress. It is our honor to introduce our guest for the day, Shri T. Koshy ji, MD and CEO of ONDC, the company established recently with an objective to strengthen and transform the e-commerce sector in India with a broad-based participation from both buyers and sellers across the country. He has a unique distinction of playing key roles in the multiple transformation projects involving digital solutions to population scale problems. Prior to assuming his role, Sir served as a senior partner with EY in the government and public sector practice, leading consulting practices in identity and social protection, digital service delivery, health education, and public finance, and was involved in multiple projects in India and other developing countries. Major projects in India in which he has played key roles include the Unique Identity Vaccine Intelligence Network, the National Digital Education Platform, GSTN, CoWIN, and many more. He has also been supporting many global projects funded by developmental agencies like the World Bank and ADBI in the area of identity and social protection. Thank you for being here, sir. IIM Raipur is delighted to have you here.
With this, I invite Shri T. Koshy ji on the stage to share his vision with us. Sir, the stage is all yours.
Good afternoon. I know Sunday afternoon is a good time, not a good time to listen to Gyan. Anyway, but your IIM has decided to have Gyan Varsha on a Saturday afternoon. So let's see how long you can keep yourself awake. I had the distinction even during my studies and even now that in sessions like this or even close, smaller meetings, I have the reputation of falling asleep very peacefully. Then since I'm the one who is speaking, it's not possible for me to. But I had also a unique capability that I used to call it the screen saving mode. So if somebody asked me Koshy and a question, I could answer. So that sort of helped me survive most of the time in the classrooms. And again, my favorite seat to be in the front because the professors never look at the front. Professors look at the guys on the back seat. So those are the tricks of the trade that I've learned, which I still practice even after 30 years of being out of college. this is a generation of you guys are all, at least the people who are sitting here, are the ones that who are from consumer goods, Amazon or Flipkart. All names I say are pure examples. I have neither any liking or disliking for any of the brands or the names that I said. That is my anticipatory bail that I would like to take when I make the presentation, because I can't help but use a number of names here and there. So you guys have Amazon, Flipkart, food, Swiggy, Zomato, car, you'll have to call Uber, Ola, all of them. Different segments, you have few options, and what we call the platform. And in the last more than 20 years, we have been completely trained in thinking platforms. So we think that the only way to run digital commerce or anything digital is to have platforms. So what I'm going to say is that may not be the way the world is going to be there. And before I'm going to say how the world is going to be there, I'm going to say how the world used to be when we started digital world. Even this is not the way it started. What I'll do is I'll take some of you to the history, where it would have been probably the history of your parents' generation, which is like me, and not like your generation. See, you all know that computers been there for about 60, 70, almost 100 years now. Some kind of computing was there. And many of them, as in the, computers started proliferating in United States with different kind of operating system, different technology, all, which are all in small islands. Then they realized when they were trying to look at large amount of data, which is going to be spread across multiple machines with multiple technology, they had to find a solution. And the solution was not going to be just standardize everything to be done in one way. The solution was, can we make them all talk to each other? So they looked at the options. So the first thing that enabled the computers to talk across the rooms and across the buildings and across continent, as you all familiar, some of you are coming from computer science background, are TCP/IP, and that's taken for granted. That sort of helped people to sort of access one computer from another continent to another continent. But that was the time while this is there, it was sort of morally geekish. I remember as students, only people who are quite cool, who knew some bulletin boards and some Gopher and some of the things you may not even have heard now, as a means to access computers in other places with, 9.6, 9.8 Mbps modem connection. Then came what we are all familiar. What made internet today is the what we all call the HTTP. There was a gentleman called Tim Berners-Lee. He developed this protocol called HTTP, and he said this is going to either change the world or going to be nothing. But as the story goes, it changed the world. And what we are all familiar as internet is www is the only internet for us. Everything else is irrelevant. Is because he created this an open source protocol. He said, let this be an open source one. Let the information sharing happen on the top of it. And imagine, take a thought experiment that he didn't do that, and he decided to set up a closed platform of HTTP. Probably in the world would have seen 2 or 3 maximum another new protocols coming up, let's call it HTTP or HTTP. And probably all of us would have been paying $1 or half $1 to reach internet, to access net, probably monthly, weekly, whatever it is. But why it did not happen is because it was used as a public utility, a foundation, a common good, a public good, on the top of which information sharing would happen. Somebody can do all of that, and it can get serviced. While Marvi is in Delhi, the service guy here, because there is a lot of standard components, standard way, which is available. Then you say, no, when it comes to commerce, that you have a difficult thing. There again, what we forget, I don't know how many of you have heard of this business called catalog marketing. How many of you have heard of this? Good old times. How come you're so young and you still know the catalog market? Even I find it very difficult to remember. Good old days when we didn't have digital commerce and internet, the only way in which we could have a variety of products available was somebody send me a physical catalog with lots of products named. By post it will come, we'll pick some of them, put it in a cover and send it to that guy, and that guy will source it. It was nicely managed. It was few multi-billion dollar business globally. It worked. So what is e-commerce? It's nothing but giving you a digital catalog which is easier to access. And the easy way to say yes and tick, you just click a button, don't have to put it in a cover. It just reached there and the traceability is so high. When you have much more seamless process, why can't we bring all these things together, stitch them together to get a seamless experience? Of course it can. Because we have been trained to think that it is not possible. Because it suits the purpose of a certain business model. Okay. So that is why we brought the idea of bringing back the original spirit of internet back to force in transactions. Say that to solve factors, which sort of looking at the factors that limit the participation in commerce. So, as a seller, if you are a food seller, you have only two options, limited choices for a seller. And if you are selling through any of these platforms, they tell you what should be the terms, what should be the discount. If you don't agree to them, you are either not there or you are not visible to the clients. You will go to the 350th page. Okay, so that means the brand, while in the physical market, the brand owner has all the right and power to decide on everything about him. But in the digital market, he is mostly a slave of the intermediaries. And if anybody else tried to, do something else, it is practically impossible to stitch together. Sometimes they even have rules like that. If you are selling through my platform, you can't sell anywhere else. They would such, those kind of things become a challenge. So that's why if you look at the idea of ONDC is only two simple ideas, which was there for 100 years, since the time people started business or even when the internet started. It's like we should be able to unbundle the building blocks of transactions of commerce, and we should have a language, grammar and the vocabulary which will help you to stitch everything together seamlessly. So these are the two simple things that is behind the thought behind ONDC. Which would essentially address this issue of concentration and associated practices. And this is nothing unique about India. The problem is everywhere in the world. You look at everywhere, and so that's why the Americans the developed country like America is trying to address this issue of concentration and associated practices through regulation. Last year they thought they could pass a regulation called America Innovation and Choice Online Act. Biden had high hope of getting it passed, but $150 million of lobbying money made sure it doesn't get passed. It's a public document, it's good fun to read. The European Union also tried to address the same issue. They have tried to address this through, again, regulation. So go and download the file Digital Market Access Act of the European Union. If you look at these, are also tell two different things. Only the same underlying problem, concentration and associated practices, which is against the interest of the industry at large. The Chinese said, "Ye sab chhod do yaar. I don't want any regulation. I'll just take control." So Jack Ma ko bola, "Khar pe jaake baito, main bataunga kya bolna hai." So they took the control approach. We in India, we decided that we will use technology and market with enabling regulation to address the same issue. That's why there's a global interest to see whether we will succeed, and a lot of people don't want us to succeed. One of my old classmates who settled in Valley for a long time, we were chatting like we all do, chat on the WhatsApp. Now he's asking what are you going to do, so I explained to him. So at the end of it, he told me a very nice, cynical way in which he explained, "Hey, now I get it." It took a long time to understand. He said, I will explain what I understood, what you are trying to do. So he said, it was in 1870 that the Sherman Act was enacted. Sherman Act was about monopoly. For another 100 years, nothing happened. It was in 1970 that the first class action suits were filed against what we call the Bell Lab, the AT&T. And it was in 1984 that the final decision took and the Bell was broken into baby bells. So he said, if in India with what you're doing can manage to break this duopoly in less than 100 years, you would have done a lot better than US. So I thought it was a very nice way of expressing what we are trying to attempt, is to bring more competition, innovation and specialization to get the best experience for the customer and the seller and not for the rent seeker in the middle. Correct? So that's a thought process. So just to help you understand a little more deeply, going a little more deeper what it means. First thing, just keep in mind that a lot of people asking ONDC platform. There's no platform. This is not platform. This is not a platform of platforms. This is not an app. You can't go to net and download an ONDC app. Nothing. Like I said, we are nothing but a protocol. Like HTTP. And everybody else have to, and anybody who compliant to that protocol can become a part of this network. Breaking the idea of a platform. If you look at the left side, so the way that I have articulated that, if you look at the left side, you would see platform A, B and C, which is what's there today existing. Okay. They have, if you look at, they have their own, some sellers there and then some buyers there. So the seller on platform A can only sell to the buyers on platform A. And if you want to be exposed to the buyers on platform A and B, like you see the seller, the rest two, he has to integrate with both of them. How many will you integrate? So that's how it is. So it becomes, that's why just for simplicity, I just look down the building blocks as the buyer side and the seller side. You know, the platform in the middle connecting those who have with those who want. So there is one part which helps the sellers to upload their catalog in a simple term, like the seller interface. On the right side, you have the buyer interface, which is what we all normally use to go and say, I want biryani or I want a phone. That's a buyer interface. Actually, these are two different programs because they have to do two different things, but they are nicely connected internally using a proprietary algorithm, a proprietary protocol. That's why it becomes closed loop. So the idea of ONDC is what is expressed on the right side. We said, let's create a language, which is vocabulary and the grammar for everybody to talk to everybody else. So just for simplicity, I broke down the components of transaction as seller interface and buyer interface. I'm sure that you know there are many more building blocks. Seller interface, buyer interface, payment, packaging, warehousing, logistics, quite a lot of them. But simplicity, let's look at the seller interface and buyer interface. So what we're saying is, now if the left side of the platform, number of platforms who are all compliant to this ONDC protocol. So what is there in the middle is that protocol is like the internet that I portrayed using that cloud there. So if you are a seller in platform left side X, which is ONDC protocol compliant, then you are visible to any buyer on the right side irrespective of any of the buying application. So you could be a buying application in P, but you can still see the S6 seller somewhere else. So a seller needs to be visible on the network using a protocol by itself or through any other aggregator once. That's it. You are visible too. So then look at the impact of that. So let's look at the buying side. So there could be, today if you look at, there are only few buying applications when it comes to consumer good, too, for food and so on and so forth, because they were all created as, islands. But there are two kinds of people who can take very smart position in the buying side, because if they are only interested in buyers. There are lots of entities who got huge amount of customers for their clients, digital customers. Let's take the biggies on the first side. Let's say telco, let's say Paytm, PhonePe. They have a lot of people who use them for money transaction, paying money. All of us use Google Pay or any of them. Today, if they want to offer digital commerce, what do they have to do? They have to go and tie up digitally and contractually end up with all the producers. If they want to give food, they have all the food fellows. And it's not an easy thing. Even for a very well-established, I'm sure that somebody would have taught you the case studies. Uber tried to do Uber Eats. Ola tried to do its Ola Foods. Amazon tried to bring its, but they couldn't really make. But they were, in their close network, they're the kings. Because going and tying up practically with so many restaurants is a lots of effort, whether it's for Uber or Ola. I mean, just taking some example. Correct? Now imagine in the ONDC world, every seller is making their catalog visible using ONDC protocol on the network. So the buyer, anybody, for example, what Ola needs to do is to give a nice interface to their client, say, hey, instantly I can get you food. I can get you food, and he need not go and tie up with any restaurant at all. And he doesn't have to worry how to service a restaurant because somebody else is doing for him. Why I took this example is that you would see it's already in pilot in Bangalore. Probably next month you would be able to go to Ola and you will see ONDC food, ONDC stuff. Because they realize that they are one of the first biggies to jump in and under testing. Because they realize that because there are already 50,000 restaurants already there, and probably next 6 months' time, it will become 150,000 restaurants in the ONDC network coming through all kinds of things. So, this guy need to only tell, see guys, now that you're trying to look for a car, instead if you want to buy a food, buy. No headache. It's only a buyer interface. It's only buyer relation, that front end that is needed. So, you can see the same thing can happen for a bank, same thing happen for a telco. If you look at the large two buying application which is already live in ONDC network is Paytm and PhonePe. Because they have a client base already there saying that I'm going to expose them to the seller base that is there. Or it could be, these are all, we say, hey, only the big guys can go. No, even a small guy can do. Like the example I was saying earlier, let's say some two graduates from IIT Chennai decided to, because set up a small small buying platform for all Tambrams outside Kerala. Outside Tamil Nadu. Okay, he says that, I'm specializing in interest. What do you want for Pongal? I'll help you to find out. What do you want for this Punul Kalyanam? I'll find out. Because I understand your culture. I only need to tell, I can even give you a Tamil interface, either voice or text. I can help you to relate. So you are in Delhi, it doesn't matter. When it comes to Pongal, I'll tell you where you can get the smartest attire for Pongal from Delhi itself. Because he doesn't have to go and tie up, they're all there. He has only put the right search there and it will come. So he says that, okay, I think I may have only a volume of maybe 100,000 USs. Doesn't matter. His cost is, so he's still, this innovation can still give him a small business which is sustainable. That's why, there could be, if you look at in the physical market, that's how. Some of them have national brands, some of them are regional brands, some of them are city brands. Doesn't matter. So it is the ambition of that person. It is possible for a wide variety of ambition to flourish in the physical world, but in the digital world, no. But when it comes to ONDC, it will become a possibility. Okay, so that is the idea. Same thing happens even for the seller side. You will see a variety of, extremely broad variety of seller platforms trying to bring different kinds of sellers on board. In fact, I was talking to one of the largest FMCG companies in India. They said, we were discussing not just about onboarding them to make their products visible in the ONDC network, which is the easiest thing to do. So we were talking to the country head, we were having a brainstorming together. They said the commerce as we know is going to change. He says, what is the challenge that for him? He's a multinational large FMCG company. He says that normally what is my strength? Mine comes from a very large distribution channel across a country. That's my strength. Even the smallest town has a kirana store which sells my product. Two things is happening in this world of commerce today. One is more and more youngsters are becoming more comfortable with the apps and the computer and mobile phone. The new kids in town would like to place an order. They don't know where the grocery shop is there. They would like to make a digital order. While as of now the digital participation is very low. It's only 5 to 6% of, while we are all users, 5 to 6% of the total e-commerce is digital. I mean, for total commerce is digital, with the seller side participation less than 2%. But that is changing. Second thing, and where is it changing? For modern commerce and for e-commerce. So modern commerce and e-commerce has humongous arm twisting capability, like we discussed earlier with the brands. So they feel that two things would happen. That will reduce their margin on one side. That will even reduce the reach, because these few large entities would like to look at their client base only. They don't care in what happens in the real small village, where the economics of the chotu from the kirana shop might be much better. This they see it as a possibility on gaining back control of their distribution channel. So now, for example, I'm just making an example. Let's say there is a full page advertisement of Dove soap with a QR code at the right side. It's not there, it will happen soon. What it will do is, it say that use any of the ONDC enabled buying platform and scan it. You don't have to pay. Either it could be Paytm, it could be PhonePe, it could be Ola, anybody. You don't have to, this brand need not to go and pay anything directly to them just for telling them scan it. If they sell it, there will be a commission maybe. When it scans, what it will do is it will pick up, let's say I'm scanning from here, it will pick up and show me the kirana shop nearby. We'll make an offer from him. His chotu will come and deliver. Delivery cost is practically zero for him. We don't need a guy on a bike coming from Greater Raipur on a bike to give you this, because it's only adding to the cost. And they can make an offer saying that any buying platform which does more than X transactions a month, I'll give you a outcome-based incentive, not trend-seeking. Today, if that brand has to be seen on the first page of a search, he has to pay lots of money to the platform. Correct? So because somebody, the rent seeker, it is like in the movie that you see, in every market, there's a guy who can take the hafta. What does he do? He'll give protection money. He can charge you the protection money. He doesn't do anything to aid commerce. He is there because he has the ability to ask for rent, for his muscle power. So that in different businesses, this muscle power comes in different ways, that's all. Now each seller can sell based on their strength. That's the whole idea. And that's how it is sort of trying to thing. And this is an idea which sort of started only very recently. So that's why you will still think when it's going to succeed, it's going to take 2 more years. But the traction is humongous. See, if I just give you in the last 6-7 months, in January we had only 50 transactions, something like 50 merchants. 500 merchants doing some 50 transactions a day. In February it became 200 transactions a day, and it is now 153,000 transactions a day. And in there we only had retail, which is mobility and which is food and grocery, and today we have mobility. In fact, mobility has gone through the roof in 2 cities. Probably next year you would see 1 more zero happening. That's the kind of growth that's happening. So if I just give you some example, just to tell you some business opportunities that is shaping up. Non-digitized sellers are finding their voice through ONDC. Just giving some examples. Kudumba Shri, it's an SHG forum from Kerala. Now you can actually order some stuff from Kudumba Shri sitting here, going to Paytm, but when it comes to Kerala, if it is unique for him, you can pay the transportation cost. It's worth it probably. Or more importantly, I hear that you have a majority of girls here. So many of them, and I know that sari is not a very common thing these days, at least in the college, but I'm sure that some of you are looking for Kanjipuram sari. You will go to Nallis. Nallis will charge you maybe 75,000 to 150,000 or 200,000. I don't know. I don't know the price of sarees, but I know they can be quite expensive. Lucky for me, my wife also doesn't wear too much of sarees. Anyway, but at least for some occasion it is the stuff. But those brand make their sarees? No, it is made by weavers from Kanchipuram. Finally, they may, for the saree that you may 100,000, they may be charging 10,000. It comes in the between because they have no other way of reaching across to you. Now we have many of them who have come on boarded. About 8-10 of them are already live and many of them are under enrollment. Now they suddenly have a visibility. And one of the challenges for a small weaver from, let's say, Kanchipuram, let's say Durga weaver, could be that how do I get a logistics player? Where do I go and type? If I go and talk to delivery, he will say that you are too small, I don't want to look at you. Whereas now, the net, finally, logistics is nothing but a service, on demand available on the net. So when there is an order from Delhi for a Kanchipuram silk sari, the seller of that Durga silk application just turn around in the network and pick up a logistics supplier who will give it on retail. And it will get picked up and get delivered in Delhi. And tomorrow, see, for example, we had been working with entities like Dun & Bradstreet, you might have heard this name. They have an international agency, with a lot of respect on their badging. So imagine that we are able to give a DNB badge to this Durga silk. So then Mustafa from Singapore, when they want to when they want to buy some sarees, he need not go to Nallis and pay 100,000. He can go to Durga silk without a worry because he knows that there's got a DNB badge there on top of it. I'm just giving you some possibilities under which this is getting changed. So what we are going to see is the significant transformation. In the next 5 to 6 years' time, there will be significant transformation in the commerce. And by the time you are old enough to be here where I am today, probably those times the kids sitting there say, hey, what is platform? Why was it so closed? We are talking about an open world with humongous amount of specialization and innovation. So what will happen is any product or service which is catalogable will make their products or service visible on this open network. Just like all of us have a web page today, correct? When you create a web page using an HTML page, what you need to know is HTML writing. If you write, you don't go and find out, hey, in Chrome I should pay something to Chrome. No. Any browser which has got a capability to read an HTML page will read it. If your stuff is relevant for 100,000 people, 100,000 people will read. If it is only for 1,000 people, only 1,000 people will read it. Similarly, everybody who's got a product catalog will make it visible, digitally visible, using this open network, open protocol, and different kind of buying platform. Some specialized will come to help their kind of buyers to buy what is relevant for them. Probably HDFC Bank say that my customers are only elite money guys, so I'm going to help them buy products which are relevant for them. There could be another buying application say that I am focusing on rural demand, I am going to give assisted commerce, I am going to set up village adhigaris across 100,000 villages who will help the villagers to digitally search and buy products which are relevant for them. So that means suddenly the products that is the products relevant for that cross section will start being available digitally. Or one step forward, saying that a mochi would come. That's what I was talking to Ram. Say that he would like the urban clap is the 5-star variety. There could be a equivalent to that in not a 5-star. The mochis of the world can say that I am available on the net. So somebody we can see from the buying platform. I want a guy to come, a plumber to come. He will visible because it's not going to be expensive to make their catalog visible because there will be a lot of standard solutions available. It's like today who doesn't have a website? Even the Kirana fellow has a website because creating an HTML page with a simple functionality is very simple. So if you have only 2 SKUs with very standard solution, creating that, making that visible will be very simple because some WordPress kind of guy would be there to make it possible. So that's a kind of changes that we are seeing. Like for example, this is we like I said, mobility. This is in Bangalore. It does something like 100,000 rides a day only on auto. Because there's auto fellow say that, hey boss, this is my most convenient, this is my network. It's not a rent seeker in the middle, so I am able to provide. So I'm just giving you some broad stuff, okay, afternoon stories. So we have some of the, like I was just saying, how the world is seeing, whether it's Bill Gates on one side or Anand Mahindra on this side. They all feel how this can completely transform. I'm not going through all of them. And if you are interested to do some more reading, facilities, and all kinds of stuff available on the net, just go. So there's something called ONDC Academy, which gives lots of study material. There's a report that McKinsey brought out in terms of how it is going to transform commerce, which is also there, democratizing digital commerce. Just go there and one. Recently, there's a big like VC called Andler. They came out with an Andler report, and also they have created a community of VCs purely investing in ONDC ecosystem. You would see in 2 days' time an announcement by Google that they are going to encourage a hackathon. They are expecting a participation of 100,000 people across the country. So stage 1 they will announce maybe on 6th, where they will say that it is only to crowdsourcing of use cases. After 1 month, for the selected 25-30, there could be there will be a hackathon to develop solutions. So what I'm saying is there is every kind of enterprises are finding their way of being a part of the story, and that is something that probably develop curiosity about it, because you are at the cusp of something that is happening. Okay, today for you it is not yet fully relevant, because your life is still very comfortable with the existing platform world. Probably by 6 years from now, by the time you are middle management level, that life is going to be different. So time to get used to it and time to understand. And that's the story I want to tell today. Thank you. Happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, sir, for this valuable insights and contributions. We deeply appreciate your willingness to share your insights, and your inspirational words have had a profound impact on us today. The floor is now open for Q&A.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for such a wonderful session. My name is Karthik from second year MBA. Sir, you spoke about how ONDC is going to transform or is on a mission to break the duopoly of Indian e-commerce. To understand, my one-part question is to understand what is the long-term strategy. Can you just name the challenges which ONDC is facing currently? 1 or 2 challenges, and how ONDC is addressing it. Because I just want to know what is the long-term strategy or the approach ONDC is following to address those challenges.
Okay, so let me just give you some. He has already joined my board, so so it's the board question that is asking how are you going to survive yourself in the long term. Good fun. Anyway, if just for a simplicity's sake, it's the biggest challenge is it's a completely new idea, never been done before. So we need to figure out. There's one of my favorite serials when I was your age or even younger, was something called Star Trek. How many of you have seen Star Trek? Hey, you guys have seen. There are some 5 captains of Star Trek. I've seen all of them. So there used to be a very favorite line that Captain Kirk used to say, where no man has ever gone before. Correct? So that's what we are trying to do. So if you ask me, we are figuring it out. Okay. The challenge is to make lots of people understand. The challenge is to get early adoption from the people who are already used to something, because they are the people who are ready, but at the same time they already have other options. The challenge is to help the people who are not in the digital commerce to get used to it. So that is the, if I give you the big picture kind of thing, but lots more to be done.
Also, sir, if you don't mind, I want to ask one more question.
Go ahead.
When your friend asked who's in Silicon Valley, like it took 100 years to break the Bell Labs, and he asked like if you can do it for India. So what was your reply, sir?
No, he said that's how he understood. I said that I may do it less than 10 years.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I don't know, probably see India has already proven. I'll just give you, just to give you some kind of confidence, it's just not some, claim by somebody, is that In about 6 to 7 years ago, we had in India, we had banking penetration of 18%. See, as per all economic model of the same economists sitting here, have done deep studies, and they have proved, they have said that to reach it 80% is going to take 42 years. But the disruption of the idea of UPI came, it took 8 years. I remember when India thought about giving this something called UIDI, that time the largest biometric database in the world was existing with the US visit, which was 10 crore. So that time the solutions were such that, when I was involved in that, that's why I'm sort of familiar, is that the cost per ID, two things were there. One is they were very proprietary technology providers. So they had a rent-seeking capability. Second thing, the technology was such that as the size of the library gets bigger and bigger, as the size of the population gets bigger and bigger, the cost per ID will exponentially rise. So we are talking about trying, that time he said, trying to create from 10 crore to 100 crore. So it was like, the exponential rise was going to be completely non-fathomable. So what we, our people in India, had managed to do was to find a solution which could rise linearly, and using open source stuff available. So that time, on an average, the cost used to be something like $10 to $15 per ID. We managed to do it at $1 plus per ID. So we are all quite good in Jugaad. Look at Chandrayaan, 650 crores. Ask the NASA guys how much it costs to send somebody up to the moon. So it is this kind of approach. Again giving you some historical perspective. I'm sure that not exactly the same. When the Europeans came to India, the continent, the existing continent, they set up what you call East India Company. East India Company was owned by few shareholders, so they tried to maximize their interest. When all of them went to US, I'm forgetting for a second that they killed all the local people there. Their way of approach was to have large highways all across, the roadways and highways. That actually drove the business on top of it. It was a public utility. So what we are trying to do is in this new 8th continent, the digital continent that we are, while the developed countries is trying to establish East India companies, we are trying to create digital rails. On the top of it, business will prosper. He had a question, yes.
Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Yaman Kurre from PGP 2224. Sir, my question to you is, sir, how will ONDC ensure more integration from the buyer platforms and as well as the sellers when the interface and the channel partners, the specific channel partners which the buying platforms such as Amazon, they work with the delivery partners, the transaction partners, and even the catalog of products which they sell. How will they ensure that there would be a seamless experience? Because let's say for a platform like UPI, for a phone pay, if the bank is down while making a payment, the customer will have a bad experience with the phone pay app. So how will ONDC ensure that the Amazon, let's say for example, will have a seamless integration with all the demand side platforms?
Okay. So this is what I told in the beginning. You didn't listen probably. You were sleeping that time. Okay. I just started by saying that. But anyway, because it's a standard question, I'll again repeat. You need to open your mind to think a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to give you some different, because it's a very critical question that comes to everybody's mind. So I'm going to give you different dimensions of the answer, not a ready-made answer. You can sit, don't worry. I can still see you. So do you know how it works? As I told you, did you know that there's a business called catalog marketing that is working? How did they work?
So they collected
What is that? Same thing, no? Now, what is digital? Did the catalog fellow then have a relationship with the logistics guy? Did I have a relation with the warehouse guy? Did I have a manufacturing? No, no. How did it all work? Seamlessly it worked. So if there is good standards and protocol, it can work. Okay, let's take a little more. Again, imagine a country where there's no hotels. And Taj Group went and set up a 5-star hotel. You will think that only way to run a hotel is 5-star. You go there and they will charge you 500 rupees for a coffee, and if you do like this, they will change it for you. Correct? You will think that is only service standard that you are familiar. Whereas the real world is not there. No? There is 5-star, there is 3-star, there is 2-star, there is a petikata, dabba wala. So, there will be different kinds of sellers who are offering different kinds of product with different SLAs for the different kind of buyers. So, they all find their matches. Everybody, so if I just take you an extreme example, let's say Amazon is 5-star. But they will still exist giving 5-star services, but there will be 3-star and 2-star is working. You know what is the penetration today in e-commerce? While all of us are sitting e-commerce, it is less than 10%. In the buy side, in the sell side, less than 2%. Why? If you go and look at the statistics of the existing platform, most of the stuff is being sold to people like us, the elite of the society. More than 70% of them will come to those kind of things because the rest of the market is irrelevant. But that's not the world it is. And again, have you again thought how they manage to do? Okay, if I just give you, for example, let's say you are the VP in charge of buying. And buying application, VP in charge of selling application. When you go and do a tie-up with a seller, it's not that you are making everything, you'll go and tie up with the seller. You will put a very tight contract with him. I'm just taking a very simplistic, that's not exactly. And that contract will say that I have this very elite customers. If I am giving them 30 days to just say, throw it back on my face without ascribing any reason. That's a condition. If you don't like it, don't come here. Okay. Then, when the buying side, you go and ask for a shirt, he will take the money of 1,500 rupees, he'll keep it with him. And if you in 30 days come and give it back, if that guy doesn't replace, he'll just give the money back to you. So it's actually, you can arm twist both sides. Correct? In the ONDC work also, you can still do that. Let's say that you are running a very elite buying platform. That buying platform will give the same offer to the buyers that in 30 days time you can just return. One difference is when let's say I am one of those buyers who there and say that I want a shirt, I will return it in 30 days. My buying platform, let's simplicity say, let's call it Paytm. He will broadcast to all sellers who are in shirt making saying that I have a client who is a very privileged client, so I will ask no questions, I will just return if he says something in 30 days time. So the other guy, the seller, every seller need not respond. In Amazon, if you are a seller in Amazon, you have no option. Now all the sellers say, some sellers will say, this side guy, okay, this is coming from, let's say this privileged guy, coming from, Green Park in New Delhi, paisa wala hona mangta hai. So I will offer the shirt at 2,000 rupees. I know there is a 20% chance of rejection or 30% of rejection. So I will factor that risk in my pricing. Then somebody else will say, I will not respond. But today also that's how the real world works, correct? There could be some other buying platform, say, I am running a discount store. So this guy will say, a shirt ma 1,000 rupees mein de dega. I don't know how many of you come from Delhi, you're familiar with it. I'm familiar with that, that's what I'm saying. If you look, you have the Infinity Mall and the Palika Bazaar. You decide where to go. The seller profile is different from Palika Bazaar, from an Infinity Mall. So finally the market is a mixture of all of them. So digital market can truly represent the physical market, where there will be different sellers offering different kinds of products with different kind of SLAs to different kind of buyers who have different specializations, different preferences, different paying capacity. So that's how it will evolve.
One more question. Okay. Oh, sir has a question.
So, my name is Mohit Goswami, and we have operations faculty here also, apart from the economics faculty. This question might be a bit cliched in that it might sound like little board level question. We are talking about cost here, particularly whenever we are running whether a platform or a network. There are significant amount of cost that we often incur in terms of maintaining the platform, constant upgradation, feature, algorithm tuning, matchmaking, and so on and so forth. In case of those private entities, Ola's, Uber of the world, etc., since because of the rent-seeking behavior, etc., they already have a certain amount of money with them and so on, and they can constantly support those kind of operations. ONDC at this point of time is government backed, and of course for few years from now there would be significant backing from the government, but at some point it might become autonomous. So in that case, who is going to support or fund or such kind of network maintenance and so on and so forth? I understand that there might not be possible answer at this point of time, but
No, I have an answer, don't worry.
great.
So first of all, Ted, let me take some misconception. This is the way it is when we set up ONDC. It is not a government department. It says it has to have the flexibility and agility, and it is for commerce. Government is not in the business of business. So it is set up as a private company with 20, as of now, 19 shareholders, soon may become even more. And they've all come together with an idea that we are going to make this a self-sustaining entity, but not deriving dividends out of it, but it is going to be a utility company, and that utility company has to sustain its own. Okay, and government has put in not a single pie in this project. Okay, that is setting the things clear. Second thing, again, for the large platform, there are two things. One is to throw away money to get a closed group, not for operational efficiency, but by giving freebies. That is become relevant only if at the end of the tunnel you have a closed group. The freebie strategy will become irrelevant, because how long can you give freebies? You can't. So that becomes irrelevant. Third is, you are not that old either. See, when WWR started, in fact, I will show it in my computer. I was one of the early ones to make some HTML pages. I still have it kept as, for memory's sake. The number of HTML tags was so few. Okay, but there are only few people only know. Probably in that time in India, probably only few people knew how to create an HTML page. Very clumsy pages. If you look at it, you will laugh. And there are any time whenever anybody want to have a website, you have to put on. It was not very easy. It was quite costly. But since it all came from a standard protocol, WordPress of the world became there. So there is a lot of standard solution will come from humongously amount of innovation possible. Let's give you one interesting example. If you look at, let's take the case, I'm just in the buying side. Many, one is a buying interface. One is, okay, let's say I'm trying to create a buying application for, from my name would have realized I'm a Mallu, for Mallus outside Kerala. One is to understand the Mallu culture and look at what's the preference, Onam, Shonam, everything, and also give the local coordination. Second thing is really smart search. That's a very very complex and engineering, very, very demanding in terms of engineering requirement. But it all uses standard protocol. So Googles of the world will come and say that I will make it available as a plugin. And I will plug, and then on the top of it I will do AI. So I will be able to use those AI stuff available as plugin, not anybody's private proprietary solutions. If you look at Google has already announced, just go and search, check it out. They have already announced they are going to give a community. In fact, the other day I was talking to the India chief of Google and I told him, boss, what we are trying to create is not Nestle, but we are trying to create Amul of commerce. So the complex engineering problems become on a standard protocol will become a SaaSable product to help these kind of. So that is going to bring a lot more innovation and specialization. Look at this way. Do you think, I'm just trying to say, if the Amazon's model is to send the shirt from Raipur on a bike, or send that shampoo on a bike, and whereas the Chotu will deliver here, we have each of the components can have a specialization and have a much better price than somebody who has it end-to-end. I'm sure that you are familiar with Virgin Mobile. They have no infrastructure. They have a CRM software and they have a billing software. They are able to buy standard solutions. That's how it will work. So otherwise in the monolithic solution, it will become inefficient. Ask the professor in economics, monopoly will become inefficient. Correct, now, professor? Okay, that was the last question. Thanks a lot.
I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Sir for gracing us with his presence and sharing with us the treasure of knowledge he carries with himself, sharing with us the principles of openness and decentralization, the importance of addicted buyers, how market concentration can lead to adverse effects, and how the concepts of unbundling and interoperability can benefit the marketplace.
We would like to express our sincere gratitude to our guest for honoring us with his presence and for sharing his valuable insights. I would now request Professor Dhananjay Bapat to present a memento to our honorable guest.
Can we have a huge round of applause? Full afternoon. I invite Professor S. Ram Kumar to deliver a vote of thanks. Sir, please.
It's often said that if you don't understand something in digital, check the Clue Train Manifesto, which is a 1980s treatise on what digital and the internet is about. It starts with a very simple line. Out of the 84 that follow it, the first line says, all markets are conversations. And that's exactly what we heard today in a completely different language from what we are used to, or what even we have been taught so many years back. I will not repeat so much of what he said, except to paraphrase it in one single sentence. India gave the world a zero, and I think we are set to do it all over again in a completely different context. It's never been attempted before and nobody has tried it for a variety of reasons, but I think that's what we're setting to do. I think the correct dialogue to thank Mr. Koshy would be from a 1980s film, again 70s film, कि यहाँ से 50-50 कोस दूर गांव में जब रात को प्लेटफॉर्म रोता है तो कोशी कहते हैं सो जा वरना ONDC आ जाएगा. And that's exactly the theme that we need to get going. One of the things you guys probably don't know about Mr. Koshy is that he's a horse rider. And we'd like to assure him that this is one horse that all of us desperately want winning. If you have switched off your phones, please put them on now and spread the message far and wide. If this is the right world to be living in, things like ONDC should win. Thank you so much for being with us. A real pleasure, and we hope to be in touch with you forever. Thank you.